In this video, I'm going to show you how to take a scan page of a stair or any detail and go ahead and convert it to something that's flattened like this that we can use as a measurable image when we import it into Rhino and draw partially over it and kind of extract information from it to draw the most accurate stair that we can from this image. Okay, so first thing you want to do is open up the image. I would just go File, Open, and then select the image that you want to use. In this case, I have it opened up. Okay. You're gonna want to unlock the image. You see it's set to background. Just double click it. I'm gonna save this as stair image. And then from here, I'm gonna go ahead and use this lasso, or sorry, the kind of rectangle tool over here. And I'm gonna basically just grab a good chunk of it. I'm gonna say like this much of it. Okay. And I'll show you why. And then once you have that kind of selected, click Control-Shift-I on your keyboard, and it's gonna invert the selection. So you click delete from here, and you should be good to go. So it deletes out everything else, and I'll show you why it's important. And then just click Control D on your keyboard and unselect everything. Then go back up to the move tool, and then we're going to move the image, maybe center it here. Go ahead and click Control T, and you'll get these kind of highlighted points across your image. And we're going to use the skew tool, which is what can be activated from here to fix up the image. So we're going to go ahead and click the plus sign down here to create a new layer. Okay, so we got a new layer. I'm going to change this and call it just H lines. These will be our horizontal lines. And then another one, call it V lines. Okay, go back to my H line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to this paintbrush. Okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Okay, and what I want to do is just draw a straight line. So I'm going to start right here. Okay, and this is the kind of the top level. So I'm going to hold shift before I click down on the mouse. Okay, if you don't do that, it won't work. So I'll do this, and I'll get a straight line. As you can see, the grid line is not actually lining up because the image is skewed. So we'll go ahead and do the same thing at the very bottom here. Click shift, and whoops, you see that I didn't actually finish my line. So I want to Control Z that, click enter. Okay, so now that the line should be ended, that's why you had that diagonal line. I will click shift down here, and you'll see that it's definitely not straight at the bottom. Okay, so click enter again to get rid of that. Now we're gonna do the same thing with the vertical lines, but before I do that, I want to show you like what we're trying to do here. So I'll go to stair image, select that, click Control T once again. Look at these selectors, and if you go ahead and if you kind of move the image, you see it gets scaled up and down. I'm gonna Control Z that. That's not what we want to do. We want to hold Control before I click down on my mouse, and at this point, once I'm holding Control, I can kind of skew this. You see that? It's showing it's like being shifted by negative 0.9 degrees, 1.2 degrees. You can see that to my right. Anyway, I'm gonna move it up. Okay, so I'm kind of trying to line the bottom one up. Now I want to line the top one up. You can see there's a grid line, right? So I'm just trying to line up that that straight line with the grid line right here. Okay, and if you don't have a grid line, you may want to use floors to help you figure this out. Luckily, we have a grid line here, so that's going to help us out tremendously, especially with the vertical. This looks relatively straight. So now I'm going to click enter, and any fuzziness kind of disappears because when you're activated, it's a bit fuzzy. We'll go to the V lines. And then from here, we'll do the same thing. Go to the paintbrush, hold shift. I'm going to go to the beginning of the stairs right here, right at the top of the image. You don't want to be in the middle just because it's skewed. You kind of just want to start the first vertical line, second vertical line at the same place. So here we know there's a vertical line. Click shift and all the way down. That's kind of close enough. And then I'll go to the end of the stairs right here, maybe the bottom of the stairs. Click shift. And it's actually pretty close. Click enter to end it. So I'll go back to my stair image, Control T, and then I'll just shift this slightly. Let's see, I'm going to shift this. And as you try to align it vertically, you might get off sync in the horizontal direction. But this is looking pretty good. I mean, I got off sync, it looks like maybe at the bottom here. It seems close enough. Okay, we're not going to get this perfect, but this is close enough. I'm going to click enter. That's the method. We can go ahead and hide these. Okay, now we're going to just save this as a JPEG. So we probably just want to crop the image by clicking this crop tool right here, and then just hover the zone you want to crop. I'm just going to crop this much. Okay, and then just click, you can click enter, or you can click this check mark up here. Okay, and so that cropped image, now we need to go ahead and save the image, or we should export it right here. Go export, export as, let it load. So you got JPEG, and just click export. And then I'm just going to call this stair example or something. .jpeg, save it. All right, so now I open up Rhino. Okay, make sure you're in inches. You see at the very bottom I'm in inches here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new view or layout view. If you go to this plus sign, you can go ahead and do that. Or otherwise, you can just type layout view, the command line. I'm going to click this, new layout, call this 30 by 30. You can call it whatever you want. This is what I'm gonna call it. I'm gonna set a custom width of 30 inches, height 30 inches, okay? All right, so now you wanna go ahead and click on this frame. You see how it's highlighted, okay? You need to highlight it for you to go into your properties, layers, go to properties. You wanna set this to 1 inches on page, right? That means this is a 30 by 30 inches. For every 1 inch, you need to set it to 12 inches in models. So what that means is when you draw 1 inches in paper space, it means it's 1 foot in the model space. So if you activate this, right, to make sure it's correct, if I went and did, I don't know, 12 feet by 12 feet, 12 feet by 12 feet, you could see that I do have indeed a box right here. I kind of messed it up by zooming out. So I'll zoom back in. Okay, so that, if I double click out of this, it is indeed still 1 by 12. If you zoom out, let me see if that messes it up. Yeah, it does. So if you zoom out, it messes it up. Now it's 1 inch to 14.8. You can always go ahead and fix that. So it's, you can always resolve that issue. I suggest if you activate the layout view here, double clicking into it, just pan, don't zoom in and out. Otherwise, go to your top view. Anyway, let's move on. Next, we're going to type picture frame in the command line and click enter. And here we'll select our stair example. Okay, and then you're going to want to draw this 1-to-1. But first, we're just going to lay it out. Okay, so I'm just going to throw it in here. Okay, we're going to scale it in a second. So go back to our 30 by 30 inches. Double click into here. And we're going to want to create this stair as a 1-to-1 in model space. So it's 1 to 12 inches in the drawing space, correct? So one way to do that is to figure out some dimension in the drawing and then scale up to it. I noticed that there is a 2000 here. This just means that it's 2 meters high to this point right here. So that's a good indicator. So I can go ahead and draw a straight line from basically right here up to, let's say, here. Okay, click enter. And I'll go ahead and I'll scale this down from here to here, or that point right here, snapping to the endpoint. And I'm just going to type 2000, I believe this is millimeters, so click enter. So that should be good enough right there. I'll go ahead and delete that, go back to our layout view, and that seems about right. So this is relatively scaled to the correct dimensions, okay? So that's setting up the page before we even draw anything, okay? The next thing we need to do, we'll walk through how you would think about drawing this in components to set up the drawing as accurately as possible, because if you didn't do that, if you just trace the image, because it's still slightly skewed, it's not going to give you the most accurate dimension. So you don't want to just trace an image. You want to grab certain components, start finding grid lines, heights, widths that we understand. For example, this 2000 is going to be very important for us, counting tread lines, and then from there, trying to draw the most accurate thing as possible, okay? So see you in the next one.